Hi, welcome back to the fourth part of this series where we started and had a conversation with Stephen M.R. Covey, author of The Speed of Trust, where Stephen talked about, knowing the four cores of credibility and really talking about transparency, talking straight, and the fact that you can over-communicate if you're not being very clear on what it is you're asking your team members to do. Followed by the conversation with Chris McChesney, our execution expert, who talked about not over-goaling your people, right? Really making sure that you understand that the whirlwind is already consuming everyone and that you probably should be very deliberate around what additional activities that are highly important you ask your people to focus on. Then followed by the great conversation with Corey Kogan on just making sure that we're not asking people to, in fact, do more with less, but ideally do less with less. And the less might be more leveraged if we're very focused on what actions, what decisions we can make that can bring a disproportionate amount of value to your culture, to your team, and to your clients. And I'm delighted to finish this series today with our Chief People Officer and two-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author Todd Davis, who's joining us live here in the studio. Todd, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Scott.
No fist bumps, no shakes, but we'll do it elbow, right? So great. Thanks for coming in today.
You bet.
What I wanted to do is kind of recap briefly what I said in the opening, which is our three guests prior to you, that are all thought leaders here, talked about just the power of focus, right? Mm-hmm. And we're all telling everybody to calm down. When in fact, most of us ourselves aren't very calm. You are, as I mentioned, the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of two of FranklinCovey's books, one on the power of relationships, and one actually with me and Victoria Reese-Olson on great management and leadership. In your day job, you also are our Chief People Officer, which means you're responsible for all of our policies and systems around people, taking care of our most valuable asset, which is our people, and our relationships. What general advice would you give to anybody else in an organization on the things that you'd say, we've talked about doing this, but we're resisting that, and we are doing this? Any kind of general advice you'd give to anybody that's listening and watching today?
Wash your hands.
Yes, yeah. But our family's making it a game. Chris said, you want to make all things a winnable game? So our boys, my wife, and I are washing our hands every hour on the hour to kind of both make our hands raw, but also to make it fun and a winnable game.
Yeah. Of course, I'm joking because everybody knows to do that. Although I will tell you this, I was in an airport the other day, and one positive thing that's come from this, I used to be appalled when I would be in the restroom washing my hands and watch a number of men walk out having used the facilities without washing their hands.
Yes.
I don't see anybody doing that anymore. Everybody washes their hands. So that's
singing
one
happy
thing.
birthday
That's
twice
right.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you what comes to mind. And again, there is so much helpful information out there going around. And without just trying to add to the noise, the thought that has been on my mind for the last several weeks now, and certainly the last several days as change is happening so rapidly, is the phrase, what the leader values gets valued. I think often, whether we're in a formal leadership role or not, I think many of us tend to think, well, gosh, what difference? If I don't rush to the store and buy out their toilet paper, if I don't rush and do this, that's not going to make a difference because everybody else is doing the same thing. No, it actually does make a difference. And the challenge is too many of us think that just one action that I take isn't going to help. It actually is. And especially if you're in a leadership role. What people see you model, they're going to model.
Yeah.
And if the leaders are...
In your personal life and perhaps your professional life.
Absolutely, both in your personal life and your professional life. And if the leaders, formal and informal, are panicking, and again, not being blind, don't go to the other end of the spectrum, but if they're panicking or being overly anxious or taking overly dramatic steps, well, then that's the kind of culture you're going to have. Yeah. I mean, it's true during times of challenge like this. It's true in good times as well. Whatever the leader is doing and valuing and modeling is what's
a universal principle.
That's right.
Right. Now, we're a public company, and we're both officers in the firm, so we are not privy to share everything going on in our firm like anyone. What could you share as the Chief People Officer of things that we're doing at FranklinCovey that you think are wise and even replicable? I've had 2 calls this morning from friends of mine who are in companies asking me, so what are you all doing about this and how are you handling that?
Right.
Anything you might share that would be helpful to say, here's how we're making our decisions and here's how we're choosing to empower and treat our own employees?
Absolutely. I just spent 2 days with our top leadership in the company, and this was one of the topics. And it is first, well, everybody has different cultures. But we certainly believe and know that your culture is your ultimate competitive advantage. And so if you have anything to do with the culture, and that would be everybody in the company, you play a part in this. Your culture, if first and foremost in your culture isn't about the people, and in this case their safety, and their security and their calmness, then you better rethink your priorities and your culture. So what we've been talking about as a leadership team is making sure that every employee of FranklinCovey knows their safety is our number one concern. The safety of theirs, their family, their loved ones is our number one concern.
Employees before customers.
Employees before
vendors.
Right.
Right. Employees
Absolutely.
first. Right.
And then you just hit the second right to that is our clients. We are a client-facing organization. We're out with clients, or we were out with clients every day, and we'll be again shortly. We're letting all of our clients know. No one, if we're still doing on-site visits with them or on-site presentations, we're letting them know that everyone coming out to their client sites have been carefully vetted. We're not putting anybody in a compromising situation. We are informing our clients of that. We're making sure our consultants and people that go out to client sites, no one is going to be asked or certainly forced to go into a situation they're not comfortable with. Somebody, maybe not even for a good reason, is uncomfortable following through on a commitment that we have made to a client. And so we're saying, great, we're going to find a replacement for you. We're not going to put anybody in that kind of a situation. And it gets messy, but I have found, not just in this challenging time, but throughout my career, if you make sure people know you're mindful of them, you're putting them first. Empathy is playing such a key role right now. You did something right before we started taping. I have a 90-year-old mother, and you said, hey, how's your mom? And I think, as I was talking to our leaders this morning, remember that everybody's at a different place. We may be talking to a group of leaders with all the same title, but you can't address them all like they're going to receive the information the same way, because this person has a 90-year-old mom, this person has young children at home, this person is going through a divorce or whatever. And so you got to really take the time, slow down, as Dr. Covey used to say, with people, fast is slow and slow is fast. Slow down, make sure you're thoughtful about your communication with each individual.
One of the things I think we're doing well, when I say we, I mean you and the executive team, is there's no vacuum of information at FranklinCovey. I've seen an email come out about every day for the last week or so, and we're sort of calibrating it almost day by day right now because it's changing so rapidly.
Hourly.
And in fact, and our emails, they're clear, but they're not somber. Like this morning, you sent an email out about our kind of emerging work from home policy, flex policy, and you made light of an issue in the company that we had a flood recently in the building. And a lot of people had to work from home for the last couple of months. And you kind of, without making light of the situation, you brought some calm to the topic by being real, right? And being transparent and being vulnerable. I think it's a great leadership principle that every leader can take to heart is, share what you know, don't share what you don't, right? Don't guess, speak with one voice.
Right.
And absent facts, people make stuff up. So consistently communicate the most you know when you know it.
I think it's so important. In the book that you and I co-authored together with Victoria, we talk about one of the 6 critical practices being lead your team through change. Lead your team through change. And you just hit on some great points in that. It's not, you don't need to, nor would you ever have all the answers, but you need to keep continually communicating with the information you do have. What do you anticipate will be coming next? What do you think is around the corner? You're a leader for a reason. And again, it's not to have all the answers, but it is to, as the word suggests, lead, to be as on top of things as you can be and keep that communication going daily and hourly if needed.
You're not by degree a psychiatrist or psychologist.
Well, now wait just a minute.
But you are by reps, thousands and thousands of reps, a great coach and mentor. For the leaders and listeners who maybe aren't formal leaders of people, and there may be an information vacuum. They may be thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be asked to take a 30% pay cut? And how am I going to afford? What advice would you give people who might be building a narrative in their head because there is a vacuum of information, or perhaps they do work for a small company that they can see the writing on the wall? Any just sage advice you would give from number of years in the saddle, because you're so old? I'm kidding.
I didn't hear you.
Any advice you'd give people that may not be in the know, like perhaps you and I are, and the executive team, to be able to control what they can and let go of what they can't? It's
a great question. And as you mentioned, every company is different, every culture is different. So maybe some companies are in a position where they're thinking, no, if this goes on for, heaven forbid, several months, even a year, we're not going to have layoffs. Other companies might not be in that position, and yes, we're going to have layoffs. Right. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, habit 1 is to be proactive. Right. And one of the skill sets we learn there, and I'm fortunate enough to teach that often, is the difference between proactivity and reactivity. And we actually use a scenario in there where we say, gosh, the company's in a downturn, having layoffs. We don't talk about the coronavirus, but we talk about this situation. And what is a proactive versus a reactive behavior? And a proactive behavior might be dusting off my resume, maybe not buying the new car or the additional thing that I didn't need, that I was thinking about doing. Might be gearing up to weather the storm for a few months. A reactive behavior might be spending all day long gossiping and talking about things that aren't true or that we don't know are true, just wasting my time, complaining, whining, all of those things. So my advice would be to these people, no, be realistic about things. Certainly continue to do your best work, keep the company going. We're finding different ways to work with our clients during this challenging time. Figure out ways in your best effort to keep your part of the company going. And don't be blind and be thinking about, gosh, maybe I could store up a little bit, maybe I could save a little bit here, maybe we don't go to the movie or go out to dinner this weekend, just if we have to prepare for a few months of less than the income we've been prepared for, or we've been having.
It's really, in some ways, an opportune time to demonstrate your own emotional maturity, your own intellectual nimbleness, and really kind of self-assess, how do you deal with change as a leader? And recognize not everybody else may deal with it the same way. We talk about in the book, you mentioned how change is an emotional process.
Right.
And because you might have a large nest egg, or you might have, a large cabinet of food, it doesn't mean everybody else is in the same situation. So you might need to be a little bit more individually attentive to some of the members of your team on what fears they're going through.
Now, Scott, you're exactly right. And going back to this theme of empathy, a phrase that I've used for years, just in my own mind and coached others, is meet people where they're at. If I'm sitting down with someone to have a performance discussion, or if I'm sitting down to talk with a department about how we're going to have to change things because our business is dropping for the next 6 months, both scenarios, meet people where they're at. Stop and consider, just as you said, what situation they're in. Don't assume, and I don't think anyone that I know assumes on purpose, but I think we go on autopilot and we think, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
So-and-so's not in the same position as this other person, things like that.
That's right. Todd Davis, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. Stay back, stay safe, stay well. And we hope this 4-part conversation probably reminded you of most of the things you already knew, right? These are principles. FranklinCovey did not invent them. We named them and we numbered them and packaged them in the All Access Pass. But most importantly, we hope you found this to be valuable and remind you, stay safe, stay calm, and as a leader, model what it is you want to see in your team, and the odds are everyone will rise to the occasion. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you.